The cargo freighter New Soul moved slowly through space like a tired old whale swimming through an endless dark ocean. Chief Engineer Kim Jamin walked down the narrow metal halls carrying his toolkit and checking the ship's systems. His boots made soft tapping sounds on the cold floor. The ship had been his home for 3 years now, and he knew every pipe and wire that kept it running. Today felt different, though. The air recyclers were making strange noises, and the power readings looked wrong on his tablet. Something was not right in the lower cargo holds. Gaiman had learned to trust his feelings about machines during his 15 years working on spaceships. When something felt wrong, it usually was wrong. He took the elevator down to level C, where they stored the heavy cargo containers. The lights here were dim to save power, and the air smelled like metal and old oil. His breath made small clouds in the cold air. Most crew members avoided this area because it was boring and uncomfortable. But Jamin liked the quiet down here. Where he could think while he worked, the problem seemed to be coming from Cargo Bay 7. When he opened the heavy door, the smell hit him right away. It was not the usual smell of metal and plastic. This was something else, something alive. J-Min turned on his bright work light and stepped inside. Tall stacks of supply boxes filled most of the space. But in the far corner, something was wrong. Several large containers had fallen over and debris was scattered everywhere. A piece of the outer hull had a big dent in it, like something had hit the ship hard. Then he heard it. Soft sound, like breathing, but deeper and slower than human breathing. Jamin felt his heart start beating faster. There should not be anything alive down here except maybe some rats. He moved his light around the fallen containers and saw something that made him stop breathing for a moment. Behind the debris was a large, dark shape. First he thought it might be some kind of machine or cargo that had broken loose. But then the shape moved slightly, and he saw eyes looking back at him. The creature was huge, much bigger than any human. It looked like a cross between a large cat and a wolf, but with longer legs and a more intelligent face. Its fur was completely black, like the darkness of space itself. 2 bright golden eyes watched him without blinking. The creature was trapped under a heavy metal beam that had fallen across its back legs. Jamin wanted to run, but something kept him from moving. The creature did not seem angry or aggressive. It just looked tired and in pain. Then he noticed something that made his chest feel tight. Next to the large creature were 3 small shapes huddled together in the cold. Baby animals. Cubs. They were so small and thin that Jamin could see their ribs through their dark fur. They pressed close to their mother for warmth, but she could not move to protect them properly because of the beam across her legs. The mother creature made a low sound, like a cat purring, but sadder. She was looking at her babies with such love and worry that Jamin felt his eyes get wet. He'd seen that same look on his own mother's face when he was sick as a child. J-Min set down his toolkit and took a step closer. The mother creature's ears moved back against her head, and she showed her teeth. They were long and very sharp, but she did not try to attack him. She was warning him to stay away from her cubs, while also being too weak to do much about it. How long had they been trapped? Here. Jamin tried to remember when the ship had been hit by that meteor shower 3 weeks ago. The impact had damaged some of the outer hull, but they had sealed the leaks and kept going. No one had checked this cargo bay carefully because it was not used for important supplies. 3 weeks. These creatures had been trapped in the cold and dark for 3 weeks with no food or water. The mother was probably dying slowly while trying to keep her babies warm. Jamin felt sick thinking about it. He backed away slowly, and the mother creature relaxed a little. Her breathing was shallow, and her eyes kept closing like she was fighting to stay awake. The cubs made tiny mewing sounds like human babies crying. J-Min ran back to his quarters as fast as he could. His hands shook as he looked through his personal food supplies. He grabbed some protein bars and a bottle of water. It was not much, but it was something. He also took a small blanket from his bed. When he got back to the cargo bay, the scene looked even sadder in the harsh light. The mother creature had not moved at all. One of the cubs had crawled closer to her face and was licking her nose like it was trying to wake her up. J-Min stayed far back and slid the water bottle across the floor. It stopped about 2 meters from the creature. She lifted her head and looked at the bottle, then at him. Her golden eyes seemed to be asking questions. Who was he? Why was he helping? What did he want? Very slowly, she stretched her neck out and knocked the bottle closer with her nose. When the cap came loose, she lapped at the water desperately. Some of it spilled on the cubs, and they tried to lick the drops from their fur. J-Min broke up the protein bars and scattered the pieces where she could reach them. The creature sniffed the food carefully before eating. She was being cautious, but also very hungry. After eating and drinking a little, the mother creature looked stronger. She made soft sounds to her cubs, and they crawled closer to her warmth. Then she looked back at Jamin with those intelligent golden eyes. This time there was no threat in her gaze, just gratitude and something that looked almost like hope. J-Min knew he was in trouble now. The ship's rules were very clear about unknown alien species. Any creature that was not in the official database was supposed to be reported immediately, and probably spaced. Captain Lee Dongwu followed regulations exactly and would not want to take any risks. But looking at this mother trying to keep her babies alive, Jamin knew he could not follow those rules. Some things were more important than regulations. Some things were about being human and doing what was right even when it was dangerous. He left them with more food and water and promised to come back soon. As he walked away, he could hear the soft sounds of the family settling down together. For the first time in weeks, they had hoped that someone cared about whether they lived or died. J-Min knew his life was about to become very complicated, but he also knew he would do whatever it took to save them. For 3 days, Jamin kept his secret. Every morning he would do his regular work, checking the ship's systems and fixing small problems. But twice each day he would sneak down to cargo bay. 7 with food and water hidden in his toolkit. The mother creature was getting stronger. She could lift her head higher now, and her golden eyes were more alert. The cubs were still very thin, but they moved around more and made soft chirping sounds when they saw him coming. Jamin had started calling the mother Nara in his mind, though. He did not know if that was a good name for her kind. On the 4th day, everything changed. Jamin was kneeling near the trapped family, giving them fresh water, when he heard footsteps in the corridor outside. His heart jumped into his throat. Someone was coming. Dr. Parkhana stepped through the doorway carrying her medical scanner. She was the ship's doctor and one of the few people who sometimes came down to the cargo levels to check air quality. When she saw Jamin sitting next to the alien creatures, she dropped her scanner and it clattered on the metal floor. Both humans froze and stared at each other. Nara lifted her head and looked between them with worried eyes. The cubs pressed closer to their mother, sensing the tension in the air. Dr. Hannah was a small woman with kind eyes, but she could be very strict about medical protocols. Jamin waited for her to start shouting or run to tell the captain. Instead, she walked slowly forward and knelt down beside him. "How long have they been here?" she asked in a quiet voice. "I found them 4 days ago, but I think they have been trapped for weeks. Since the meteor impact," Jamin's voice shook a little. "Please don't report this. They are dying. The mother is trying so hard to keep her babies alive." Dr. Hannah studied the alien family with her professional eye. She could see the signs of starvation and dehydration. The mother's breathing was still, shallow, and the cubs were clearly malnourished. "They need proper medical care," she said. "Better food than protein bars." "You are not going to tell Captain Lee?" Jamin asked hopefully. Dr. Hannah looked at the cubs who were watching her with bright, curious eyes. One of them made a tiny sound like a kitten mewing. "Not yet," she said, "but we need to be careful. The captain finds out, he will follow regulations. His creatures will be spaced immediately." From that day forward, Dr. Hannah became Jamin's partner in the secret rescue. She brought medical supplies and special nutrition paste that was easier for the weak creatures to digest. She also brought her portable scanner to check their health without getting too close.
Ow!
"Their biology is similar to Earth mammals," she told Jamin, after running several scans. But more advanced. Look at their bone density and muscle structure. These are natural predators. It's very strong and very fast when healthy. The mother creature Nara seemed to understand that Dr. Hannah was trying to help. She allowed the doctor to come closer and even let her examine the cubs. When Dr. Hannah gently touched one of the babies, Nara made a low, rumbling sound that was not threatening. It sounded almost like she was saying thank you. "She is intelligent, doctor," Hannah said with wonder. "Very intelligent. Look at how she watches our hands and faces. She is learning about us." Jamin had noticed this too. Nara seemed to understand. Basic gestures like pointing and nodding. When he brought food, she would wait patiently until he moved away before eating. She never tried to grab or take anything by force, even though she was much stronger than either human. One day, Jamin had an idea. Went to the ship's computer room and talked to the artificial intelligence system that ran most of the ship's functions. "Can you create a basic translation program?" he asked. "Something that might work with an unknown alien language?" The AI was curious about this unusual request. "What type of language patterns are you working with?" it asked through the speakers. Jamin had been recording the sounds that Nara and her cubs made. He played some of these recordings for the AI to analyze. "It's fascinating," the computer said. "These vocalizations show complex grammatical structures. This species has sophisticated communication abilities. It took 2 days, but the AI created a simple translation device that could recognize basic concepts and emotions." When Jamin brought it down to the cargo bay, he was nervous about how Nara would react to the strange sounds it made. At first, Nara was suspicious of the device. But when it started making sounds that were similar to her own language, she became very interested. She made a series of soft growls and chirps at the device. The translator screen showed simple words: pain, trapped, cubs, help. Jamin pointed to himself and said his name slowly. The translator converted this into sounds that Nara could understand. She listened carefully, then made her own sounds back. The screen showed Nara, fierce protector, gratitude. Dr. Hannah was amazed when she saw this first conversation. "She told us her name," she whispered. "She actually told us her name." Over the next few days, the translation became better as the AI learned more about Nara's language patterns. They discovered that she came from a world called Velkara, where her people lived in family groups and traveled between planets. Her ship had been attacked by raiders and destroyed. She had managed to hide her cubs in the human cargo hold during the battle, but debris from the damaged hull had trapped her. "My people honor debts," Nara told them through the translator. "Save my cubs. I owe life debt to you." "We don't want anything from you," Jamin said. "We just want to help." This concept seemed to confuse Nara. Through the translator, she asked many questions about why humans would help strangers without expecting payment or service in return. Her people apparently had very strict rules about owing favors and repaying kindness. The cubs were getting stronger every day. They had started playing with each other and exploring the small area around their mother. Dr. Hannah had managed to remove some of the smaller debris.
Ow!
So they had more room to move. But the heavy beam across Nara's legs was still too dangerous. To move without proper equipment, need help, Dr. Hannah told Jamin. Professional help. The mother has internal injuries that I cannot treat with basic medical supplies. And we need heavy lifting equipment to free her safely. Jamin knew she was right. But getting help meant telling other people about their secret. It meant risking discovery by Captain Lee, who would definitely follow military regulations about unknown alien species. That night, as he lay in his bunk, Jamin thought about the choice ahead of them. They had come so far, and the alien family was finally starting to trust them. Nara had even started teaching her cubs simple words in human language using the translator. But Dr. Hannah was right about the medical situation. Without proper treatment, Nara might still die even if they freed her from the debris. The cubs needed their mother to survive in a dangerous galaxy. Tomorrow, he would have to decide whether to risk everything by asking for help or watch their new friends slowly fade away in the darkness of the cargo hold. Either choice might mean the end of the most amazing friendship he had ever known. Jamin made his decision the next morning when he found one of the cubs lying very still beside its mother. The small creature was breathing, but barely moving. Its fur had lost its shine, and its eyes were dull. Dr. Hannah's medical scanner showed that the cub was getting weaker despite all their efforts. "We need Security Chief Choi Woo-jin," Jamin told Dr. Hannah. "He has the heavy lifting equipment, and the medical bay has better supplies. I cannot watch them die when we might be able to save them." Dr. Hannah nodded sadly. She had been thinking the same thing. Woo-jin is a good man. He might help us. But once we tell him, we cannot control what happens next. They found Woo-jin in the security office checking the ship's sensor readings. He was a tall, serious man who had served in the Colonial Defense Forces before joining the merchant fleet. When Jamin asked to speak privately, Woo-jin locked the office door and listened carefully. "You found what in Cargo Bay 7? Woo-jin asked when they finished explaining. His voice was calm, but his eyes were wide with surprise. "Intelligent. Aliens who need our help," Dr. Hannah said. "A mother and 3 cubs who have been trapped for weeks. They are not dangerous. They are just trying to survive." Woo-jin was quiet for a long moment. As security chief, he was supposed to report any threats to the ship immediately. Unknown aliens definitely counted as a potential threat according to regulations. But he was also a father who had lost his own daughter in a transport accident. 5 years ago. "Show me," he said finally. The 3 of them went down to the cargo bay together. When they entered, Nara lifted her head and looked at the new human with suspicious eyes. The cubs pressed closer to their mother, sensing her worry. The weakest cub barely lifted its head. Woo-jin stopped walking when he saw the alien family. His hand moved automatically toward his weapon, but then dropped to his side. These creatures were clearly not a threat to anyone. They were trapped and desperate and trying to protect each other. "Hello," he said softly. The translator device picked up his words and converted them into sounds that Nara could understand. Nara studied his face for several seconds. She had learned to read human expressions over the past week. This man was cautious but not cruel. "You are protector," she said through the translator, "like me. You keep ship safe." "Yes," Woo-jin replied. "I keep the ship and crew safe, but I also believe in helping those who need help." Over the next hour, Nara told Woo-jin her story using Woo-jin, the translator. She explained how her people traveled in family groups called pods between different worlds. They were hunters and explorers who valued honor above everything else. Her pod had been carrying important cultural artifacts when raiders attacked them near this star system. "The raiders wanted our treasures," Nara explained. "Ancient things. From our homeworld, we fought, but their ships were stronger. My mate died protecting the pod. I saved my cubs by hiding them in your cargo hold, but the battle damaged your ship. When debris fell, I was trapped." Woo-jin listened to every word. He asked questions about the raiders and their ships. From Nara's descriptions, he realized these were the same pirates who had been attacking merchant vessels in this sector for months. "Your people and my people have the same enemy," he told her. "These raiders have killed many humans too. We are not so different." The cubs were getting more comfortable with the new human. The 2 stronger ones had started playing again, now that their mother seemed relaxed, but the weakest cub was still lying motionless against Nara's side. Dr. Hannah knelt beside the small creature and ran her medical scanner over its body. "Severe malnutrition and dehydration," she reported. "This one needs immediate treatment in the medical bay. We cannot help it properly down here." Nara made a worried sound and nuzzled her sick cub. She understood that it was dying, but she could not reach it properly because of the beam across her legs. "Can you help, small one?" she asked through the translator. "Will you take cub to healing place?" "Yes," Dr. Hannah said without hesitation. "But I need to move it carefully. Will you trust me?" Nara looked into the doctor's eyes for a long moment. Then she made a soft, rumbling sound that meant agreement in her language. When Dr. Hannah gently picked up the weak cub, Nara did not try to stop her, even though every instinct told her to protect her baby. "I will bring it back healthy," Dr. Hannah promised. As she carried the small creature toward the door, "I know," Nara replied. "You have good heart. Cubs can sense this." While Dr. Hannah took the sick cub to the medical bay, Woo-jin examined the debris that trapped Nara. The heavy metal beam would need special equipment to move safely. But more importantly, he realized that moving it would require at least 3 people working together. "We need Captain Lee," he told Jamin. "There is no way around it. This rescue requires the captain's authority and the ship's resources." Jamin felt his stomach drop. Captain Lee Dongwu was a good man, but he followed regulations exactly. He had never bent rules or taken risks that might endanger his crew or ship. He will space them, Jamin said quietly. The moment he sees them, he will follow military protocol. Maybe Wu Jin replied. But maybe not. Captain Lee is also human. Let me talk to him first. Alone. That evening, Wu Jin requested a private meeting with the captain. Captain Lee was a middle-aged man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been running cargo ships for 20 years and had seen many strange things in space. But he had never dealt with anything like this. Want me to officially harbor unknown aliens on my ship? Captain Lee said after hearing the whole story. Do you understand what you are asking? I am asking you to save lives, Wu Jin replied. Innocent lives. A mother and her children who pose no threat to us. Captain Lee was quiet for several minutes. He stared out the small window at the stars. Beyond. Finally he spoke. I want to see them myself, tonight, before I make any decisions. At midnight, the captain followed Wu Jin and Jamin down to Cargo Bay 7. They brought portable lights to make the space brighter. When they entered, Nara was lying with her 2 remaining cubs pressed against her for warmth. She had been waiting anxiously for news about her sick baby. Captain Lee stopped when he saw the alien family. He had expected something frightening and dangerous. Instead, he saw a mother worried about her children and too weak to properly care for them. The cubs looked at him with bright, curious eyes that reminded him of his own grandchildren back on Earth. The sick one, Nara asked immediately through the translator. Small cub alive? Dr. Hannah is taking good care of your baby, Captain Lee said gently. It is getting stronger. Nara made a sound of relief and gratitude. You are leader of this ship, she said. Your people follow you. Will you help my family? Captain Lee looked into her golden eyes and saw intelligence and dignity that impressed him. This was not a mindless beast or a dangerous predator. This was a person asking for help for her children. Yes, he said after a long pause. We will help you. All of you. But you must understand that this changes everything. Once we officially help you, we become responsible for your safety. Are you willing to trust us completely? You already saved my cub, Nara replied. Trust has already been given, Captain Lee nodded slowly. Then tomorrow we will free you properly and bring your family together again. You have my word as captain of this ship. For the first time since Jamin had found them, Nara's eyes showed real hope. Her cubs sensed her change in mood and made happy chirping sounds. The nightmare of being trapped and forgotten was finally ending. But none of them knew that other Belkan ships were already searching for Nara and her family. The raiders who had destroyed her pod were still hunting for something they believed she carried. Something valuable enough to kill for. The rescue operation began at dawn. Captain Lee had assembled the entire crew in the cargo bay with heavy lifting equipment and medical supplies. Dr. Hannah returned with the weakest cub, now much healthier after a night in the medical bay. When Nara saw her baby moving and alert again, she made sounds of pure joy. Thank you, she told Dr. Hannah through the translator. You gave life back to my small one. It took 4 hours to carefully remove the heavy beam from Nara's legs. She had been trapped for so long that her muscles were weak and her bones bruised. But Dr. Hannah's scans showed no permanent damage. With time and proper care, Nara would be able to run and hunt again. When she finally stood up for the first time in weeks, Nara was even more impressive than they had imagined. Standing on her back legs, she was nearly 3 meters tall. Her black fur gleamed under the lights and her golden eyes held fierce intelligence. When her cubs ran to her and she gathered them close with gentle care, the crew saw her true nature. She is magnificent, whispered Jinnah, the ship's communications officer. Look how she moves, like liquid shadow. Captain Lee had arranged quarters for the alien family in an unused section of the ship. It was not luxurious, but it was warm and safe, with soft bedding and plenty of space for the cubs to play. Nara walked slowly through the rooms, testing every corner and exit. Her predator instincts made her check for escape routes even though she trusted the humans. This is a good place, she told them. My cubs will be happy here. How can I repay this kindness? You don't need to repay anything, Captain Lee said. We help because it is right. But tell me about these raiders who attacked your pod. Are they still hunting for you? Nara's expression grew dark. Yes, they seek something they think I carry. The heart of Velcra, ancient treasure of my people. It's very valuable to those who understand its power. Do you have this treasure? Wu Jin asked. Not with me, Nara replied carefully. But I know where. It rests. The raiders believe I will lead them to it if they capture my cubs. They do not understand that I would die first. Captain Li felt a chill run down his spine. How many ships do they have? At least 6 war vessels. Maybe more now. Their leader is called Kang. He was cast out from our people for crimes against cubs. Now he leads outcasts and criminals who care nothing for honor. The next morning their worst fears came true. Communications officer Gina detected 3 ships approaching from the outer system. Their signatures matched no known merchant or military vessels. They were moving fast and directly toward the new Sol. Pirates Captain Li announced to the crew over the ship's communication system. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. The new Sol was not a warship. It was an old cargo freighter with basic shields and only light defensive weapons. Against 3 pirate vessels, they had almost no chance in a straight fight. But Captain Li was not planning to fight fair. Can we outrun them? He asked Jen. Not. In open space, our ships are faster, and they will catch us before we can reach the next star system. In their new quarters, Nara paced back and forth like a caged predator. She could hear the alarm signals and feel the ship changing course. Her cubs stayed close to her, sensing danger. The raiders have found us, she told Dr. Hannah, who had come to check on them. I am sorry. My presence brings death to your ship. Dr. Hannah said firmly. We chose to help you. We knew there might be risks. You are part of our crew now. The first attack came 2 hours later. Energy beams lanced out from the pirate ship, striking the new Sol's shields. The whole ship shook, and lights flickered as power was redirected to defensive systems. Shields down to 60%, reported engineer Taeho from the bridge. Captain Li opened a communication channel to the attacking ships. This is Captain Lee Dongwu of the merchant vessel New Sol. We are carrying only cargo and medical supplies. What do you want? A harsh voice answered him. I am Kong, leader of the Blood Hunt clan. You have something that belongs to me? Send over the Velkin female and her spawn, and you may live. We have no aliens aboard this vessel, Captain Lee lied smoothly.
Oh.
You are attacking innocent merchants. Kong's laughter was cruel and cold. Do not play games, human. My sensors detect Velkin life signs on your ship. Give them to me or I will take them from your wreckage. The communication ended, and the pirates resumed their attack. This time, they targeted the engine section, trying to disable the ship rather than destroy it. They wanted Nara and her cubs alive. In the engineering section, Jaemin worked frantically to keep the systems running under the constant bombardment. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the air filled with smoke. I can't keep the shields up much longer, he reported to the bridge. That was when Nara appeared beside him. She had left her cubs with Dr. Hannah and come to help fight for the ship that had saved her family. Tell me how to help, she said through her translator device. Jaemin stared at her. You should be protecting your cubs, not fighting our battles. My cubs are safe with your doctor. But if this ship dies, we all die. I am warrior of Velkara. I do not hide while others fight for me. Nara's understanding of technology was different from human knowledge, but her predator instincts gave her insights that surprised Jaemin. She could sense weak points in the ship's structure and predict where the pirates would attack next. Together they rerouted power and reinforced critical systems. On the bridge, Captain Lee was running out of options. The pirates had surrounded them and were systematically destroying their defenses. Soon they would board the ship and search for Nara. Captain called Jin urgently. I'm detecting movement in the cargo bays. Something just cut through the outer hull. Wu Jin grabbed his weapon and headed for the cargo section with 2 security officers. They are boarding us, he reported. At least 6 hostiles in full battle armor. The Velkin raiders were larger and stronger than humans. They moved through the ship's corridors like deadly shadows hunting their prey. Their weapons were advanced. Energy rifles that cut through metal walls like paper. but they had not expected the ship's crew to fight back so fiercely. Wu Jin and his men used their knowledge of the ship's layout to set ambushes and traps. The narrow corridors that seemed to favor the larger aliens actually worked against them when humans attacked from unexpected angles. "These humans fight like cornered animals," one raider reported to his leader. "They show no fear even when outnumbered." The battle raged through the ship's lower levels. Jamin had sealed off the section where Nara's cubs were hidden with Dr. Hannah, but the raiders were getting closer to the bridge and the ship's life support systems. Then Nara herself entered the fight. She moved through the familiar darkness of the cargo bays, like a ghost made of shadow and fury. Her claws and teeth were natural weapons that needed no ammunition. Her knowledge of Velkin tactics let her predict what the raiders would do next. When she appeared behind a group of raiders who were advancing on Wu Jin's position, they turned in shock. This was not the weak, trapped creature they expected to find. This was Nara, the fierce protector in her full power and rage. "Impossible, one raider gasped. "You should be dead or dying." "How are you free humans freed me?" Nara snarled in her own language. "Humans showed mercy when my own people showed only cruelty. Now you face both human courage and Velkin honor." The fight that followed was brutal and quick. Nara fought with desperate fury while Wu Jin and his men provided covering fire. The raiders had expected to face weak humans and a helpless prisoner. Instead, they found themselves caught between determined defenders who trusted each other completely. But even as they won this battle, Captain Lee knew the war was far from over. Kong still had 2 ships full of pirates waiting outside. The new soul was too damaged to run or fight much longer. "This is only the beginning," Nara told him as they regrouped on the bridge. "Kong will not give up easily. He believes I am the key to power beyond imagination. He'll keep coming until one of us is dead." Captain Lee looked at his battered ship and exhausted crew. They had won the first round, but the real test was still ahead. And somewhere in the depths of space, Kong was preparing his final assault. The new soul drifted in space like a wounded animal. Smoke rose from damaged sections, and sparks flew from broken control panels. Half the lights were out, and the air recyclers made grinding sounds. Captain Lee studied the damage reports with growing worry. The ship could not survive another major attack. Outside the viewport, 6 more pirate ships had arrived to join Kong's remaining vessels. 8 warships now surrounded the crippled freighter. The pirates were taking their time, knowing that their prey could not escape. "They want us to surrender," Jinna reported from her communications station. "Kong is demanding we send Nara and her cubs over immediately, or he will destroy the ship section by section." In the medical bay, Dr. Hannah was treating wounded crew members, while Nara's 3 cubs played quietly in the corner. The cubs did not fully understand the danger, but they sensed the tension in the adults around them. The smallest one that Dr. Hannah had saved stayed close to her whenever possible. Nara herself stood on the bridge looking out at the enemy ships. Her golden eyes reflected the light from weapon systems that were charging for another attack. "I must tell you truth now," she said through the translator. "Kang seeks more than just treasure. He seeks the heart of Velkara, but not to own it. He wants to destroy it." Captain Lee turned to face her. "What is this heart exactly? Why is it so important?" "The heart of Velkara is not jewel or gold," Nara explained. "It is living crystal that holds memory and wisdom of my people. For thousands of years it has chosen guardians who protect Velkin culture and guide our clans. Kong believes that destroying it will make him ruler of all scattered Velkin groups." "Where is this crystal now?" Wu Jin asked. Nara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was filled with ancient sadness. "The heart does not choose location, it chooses person. I am current guardian. The heart lives within me. That is why Kong can never stop hunting until one of us is dead." The bridge fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. They were not just protecting a refugee family. They were protecting the living history and culture of an entire species. If Nara died, the Velkin people would lose their spiritual center forever. "Then we make sure you don't die," Captain Lee said simply. "Now send a message to the Colonial Defense Force. Tell them our location and situation. Maybe help will come? Captain, the nearest military ship is 6 days away, Ginna replied. We don't have 6 hours, let alone 6 days. Jamin had been working frantically in the engine room, trying to restore power to critical systems. Came to the bridge with a desperate plan. I can overload the main drive core, he said. It will give us one massive burst of speed and energy, enough to ram Kong's flagship and maybe take it out. That would destroy our ship, Captain Lee pointed out. Better than letting them capture Nara and her cubs, Jamin replied. At least. This way, we go down fighting. Nara listened to this conversation with growing amazement. These humans were talking about sacrificing their lives for her and her children. In Velkin culture, such loyalty was only given to family members or clan leaders. But these strangers were treating her family as if they were blood relatives. I cannot ask you to die for me, she said. My people have laws about life debts. This goes beyond anything I can ever repay. You don't have to repay anything, Dr. Hannah said as she entered the bridge. We protect you because it is right. Because you are part of our crew now. Because your cubs deserve to grow up safe and free. The cubs had followed Dr. Hannah to the bridge. When they saw their mother, they ran to her, making happy chirping sounds. Nara gathered them close with her powerful arms and made soothing rumbles in her throat. Watching this tender scene, the human crew felt their resolve strengthen. We stand together, Captain Lee announced. Human and Velkin, family. The final battle began an hour later. Kong's ships attacked from all directions, trying to disable the New Soul without destroying it completely. They wanted Nara alive so they could force her to reveal the location of other Velkin artifacts and sacred sites, but the crew of the New Soul had prepared their own surprises. Jamin had rigged explosive charges throughout the ship that could be detonated remotely. If the pirates tried to board again, they would find themselves walking into carefully planned traps. Woojin and his security team had armed themselves with every weapon on the ship, also carried Velkin weapons taken from the dead raiders. Nara had taught them how to use the alien energy rifles and shown them weak points in Velkin battle armor. Remember, Nara told them as they prepared for battle. Kong's warriors are strong, but they expect fear. Show them courage and they will. Hesitate. That hesitation will be their weakness. The boarding assault came from 3 directions at once. Pirate vessels attached themselves to the New Soul's hull and cut through the armor with plasma torches. Dozens of armored raiders poured into the ship expecting quick victory. Instead, they found organized resistance that shocked them. The humans fought with tactical intelligence that complemented Nara's predatory instincts perfectly. When raiders tried to advance through narrow corridors, they found explosive traps waiting for them. When they spread out to search multiple areas, they were picked off by hidden defenders. In the medical bay, Dr. Hannah had barricaded herself with the cubs and several wounded crew members. She held a weapon in shaking hands, determined to protect the young ones, even though she had never been in combat before. The cubs pressed close to her legs, chirping softly when they heard fighting sounds nearby. On the bridge, Captain Lee and Jinnah tried to keep the ship's systems running while battle raged around them. Every few minutes another section would lose power or life support as the fighting damaged critical components. Jamin was in the engine room, making final preparations for his desperate ramming plan when 3 raiders broke through his defenses. They cornered him near the main drive core with weapons pointed at his head. Surrender, human, their leader commanded. Tell us where the Velkin female hides or we will kill you slowly. Go to hell, Jamin replied, and activated the first stage of his overload sequence. The engine room filled with dangerous energy as the drive core began building toward explosion. The raiders realized what was happening and tried to stop him, but Jamin had sabotaged the control systems. There was no way to reverse the process now. You are insane. One raider shouted over the rising energy whine. You will destroy your own ship. That's the plan, Jamin said with a fierce smile. But before the drive core could reach critical overload, Nara appeared in the engine room doorway. She had fought her way through half the ship to reach this critical location. Blood from minor wounds stained her black fur, but her golden eyes burned with determination. Jamin, stop, she called to him. I have better way, she spoke rapidly in her own language to the 3 raiders. They listened with growing shock and fear. Whatever she was telling them made them back away from their weapons and look at her with something like respect. What did you tell them? Jamin asked, as he carefully shut down the overload sequence. I told them truth about what happens when Heart of Velkara is destroyed, Nara replied. Not just death of culture, death of all Velkans everywhere. The heart connects our people across space. Without it, we become nothing but animals again. The three raiders were speaking urgently into their communication devices. Within minutes, fighting stopped throughout the ship as word spread among Kong's forces. Many of the pirates were Velkans themselves who had never understood what their leader truly planned. But Kang himself was not so easily deterred. His voice echoed through the ship's communication system, filled with rage and madness. Lies, he screamed. The female tries to save herself with false prophecies. Continue the attack. Bring her to me alive. The battle resumed, but now it was different. Some of Kong's own warriors were having doubts about their mission. The fighting became confused as Velkan pirates argued among themselves about whether to continue following their leader. In this chaos of divided loyalties and uncertain alliances, the crew of the New Soul found new hope. They were no longer facing a united enemy. They were facing a force that was destroying itself from within, but Kong still had loyal followers and powerful ships. The final confrontation was yet to come, and it would determine not just the fate of Nara and her cubs, but the future of the entire Velkan species. The battle for the New Soul ended not with explosions, but with words. As Velkan pirates throughout Kong's fleet learned the truth about the Heart of Velkara, many refused to continue fighting. Some even turned their weapons against their former leader ships. This is Captain Veltar of the vessel Shadowhunter, came a transmission from one of the pirate ships. We withdraw from this attack and will not be part of destroying our own people's future. 3 more ships broke away from Kong's formation and moved to a safe distance. Their crews had realized that following Kong meant the death of everything they held sacred. But Kang himself was not finished. His flagship and 2 loyal vessels continued the assault with desperate fury. Cowards and fools, Kong's voice raged over the communication channels. The old ways are dead. Only the strong deserve to survive. I will take the heart and remake the Velkan people in my image.
Oh.
On the bridge of the New Soul, Captain Lee watched the enemy formation break apart with amazement. I have never seen pirates turn against their own leader like this, he told Nara. Kong forgot that even outcasts and criminals are still Velkan, she replied. When they understood what he truly planned, their honor awakened. But he has followers who care nothing for honor. The fight is not over. She was right. Kong's remaining ships pressed their attack with renewed violence. They no longer cared about capturing Nara alive. If they could not have the Heart of Velkara, they would destroy it and everything else. Energy beams lanced out from the pirate vessels, striking the New Soul's weakened shields. The cargo ship shuddered under the impact and more systems failed. In the medical bay, Dr. Hannah held Nara's cubs close as the lights flickered and the floor shook beneath them. Mama, the smallest cub, called out in its high voice. It had learned to speak a few words in human language during their weeks together. Mama is fighting to keep us safe, Dr. Hannah told the little one gently. She is very brave, just like you. The bridge Jamin was preparing his ramming attack when something unexpected happened. The ship's long-range sensors detected new contacts approaching from the outer system. At first, everyone thought it was more pirates coming to join Kang, but Gina's analysis showed something different. Captain, these are Velkan ships but not raiders. Signatures match merchant and family vessels. At least 12 contacts and more appearing every minute. Nara looked at the sensor readings with growing excitement. My people, she whispered. Other survivors from the scattered pods? They heard the distress signals we sent. What followed was the largest gathering of Velkan ships seen in decades. Family pods that had been separated by years of running from raiders were reuniting in this remote star system. They had come because they sensed that something important was happening here. The lead vessel was commanded by an elderly Velkan named Tornash, who had been searching for Nara since her pod was destroyed. When he learned that humans had saved the Guardian of the Heart, his amazement was beyond words. For cycles uncounted, we have wandered alone, believing our people were doomed to fade into darkness. He transmitted to both the new soul and the assembled fleet. Now we find that strangers showed more honor than our own warriors. This changes everything. Kang found himself facing not just one damaged cargo ship, but an entire fleet of angry Vulcans who had heard how he planned to destroy their cultural heart. His 3 remaining ships were hopelessly outnumbered by dozens of vessels crewed by families who would do anything to protect their children's future. "Stand down," Kong Tornash commanded. "Your madness ends here. Surrender and face judgment." By the assembled clans. But Kong was too far gone in his rage and desperation to listen to reason. "I will not be stopped by weaklings and cowards," he screamed back. "If I cannot rule the Vulcans, I will destroy them all." His flagship opened fire on the nearest family vessel, attempting to kill innocents out of spite. But before his weapons could strike their target, the new soul moved between them. Captain Lee had ordered his damaged ship to shield the Vulcan families, even though it meant certain destruction. "All hands brace for impact," he announced calmly over the ship's communication system. The energy beams meant for the Vulcan ship struck the new soul instead. The cargo freighter's shields collapsed completely, and hull breaches opened in multiple sections. But the human ship had absorbed the attack and saved dozens of Vulcan lives. What happened next surprised everyone. Instead of finishing off the new soul, Kong's remaining followers finally abandoned him. Seeing humans willing to die to protect Vulcan families broke something inside even the most hardened pirates. They shut down their weapons and transmitted surrender messages. Kang found himself alone on his flagship, facing an entire fleet that wanted justice. In his final act of madness, he set his ship's reactor to overload, hoping to take as many others with him as possible. But Vulcan boarding parties reached his ship before the explosion could occur. They captured the would-be destroyer of their people, shut down his reactor with minutes to spare. The immediate danger was over, but the new soul was dying. Too many systems had failed, and too much of the hull was breached. Captain Lee gave the order to evacuate the ship. "Where will we go?" asked Dr. Hannah as she helped move wounded crew members to Vulcan rescue ships. "You will come with us," Nara said firmly. "All of you. The debt between our peoples can never be fully repaid, but we will spend our lives trying." What followed were weeks of discussion and planning among the assembled Vulcan clans. For the first time in generations, they had a chance to rebuild their society instead of just surviving. And at the center of these discussions were the humans who had saved their guardian. Captain Lee found himself in command not just of his old crew, but of a joint expedition that would establish the first permanent Vulcan settlement in decades. The damaged new soul was rebuilt using both human and Vulcan technology, creating something entirely new. J-Min worked alongside Vulcan engineers, learning techniques that had been developed over thousands of years of space travel. The combination of human innovation and Vulcan wisdom produced technologies that neither species could have created alone. Dr. Hannah established medical programs that benefited both species. Her treatment of Nara's cubs had shown that human and Vulcan biology were compatible in ways that opened new possibilities for cooperation. Wu Jin trained with Vulcan warriors, creating new tactical methods that combined human adaptability with Vulcan strength and speed. These techniques would prove valuable as they explored dangerous regions of space together. The cubs grew strong and healthy in their new environment. They played with human children who had been brought to the settlement and learned to speak both languages fluently. They became living symbols of the friendship between two very different species. Nara herself took on a new role as ambassador between her people and humanity. The heart of Velkara that lived within her had begun to change, incorporating human concepts of cooperation and mutual aid into ancient Vulcan traditions. "My people believed that only the strong deserved to survive," she told Captain Lee one day, as they watched their children play together in the settlement's central garden. "But you humans taught us that survival is easier when different kinds of strength work together." The settlement they built became a beacon for other scattered groups of both species. Refugees and explorers came seeking the new kind of life that was being created there. Some came as families, others came alone, looking for purpose and belonging. Years Later, when historians tried to explain how to species that had never met before became such close allies, they always returned to the same starting point. It began with one human engineer who could not walk away from a trapped mother and her children. It began with compassion that crossed the darkness between stars. Nara's cubs grew up to become leaders and explorers in their own right, but they never forgot the humans who had saved their lives when they were small and helpless. They carried that memory with them as they traveled to distant worlds, spreading the message that different species could become family. The new soul became a legend among spacers of all species. Stories were told of the cargo ship that stood against impossible odds to protect refugees, of the crew that chose to risk everything for strangers who had become friends. But for those who lived through it, the real victory was simpler and more personal. It was Nara's cubs calling Dr. Hannah grandmother in both human and Velkin languages. It was Jamin and Velkin engineers arguing cheerfully about the best way to build starship engines. It was Captain Lee and Tornash planning joint expeditions to explore uncharted regions of space. It was the knowledge that when darkness falls and hope seems lost, sometimes a single act of kindness can light up the entire galaxy. Sometimes helping one family in need can change the destiny of entire civilizations, and sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply refuse to walk away when someone needs help, regardless of who they are or where they come from. Because, in the end, family is not about blood or species or planets of origin. Family is about the choice to stand together when everything else falls apart.